Welcome all, my name's Jonathan Kay. We're going to dive right into really showing about a high-level view of the various components of SimsUshare, and that's why we called it kind of back to basics. We've had a couple of webinars in the past few months that have gotten into specific topics of online training, states, things that are a little bit more elaborate. It's time to kind of pull back and look at kind of where we've come and where someone who's just getting involved in the program can start. So, of course, I speak on behalf of myself, Steve Ward, Daniel Spivak, Ryan Peterson, our whole team here. Hopefully some of you had a chance to talk with them on customer support, sales support, anything that we can help you with, we're more than happy to do. We started SimsUshare in 2012 after working on another more elaborate simulation program called Command Sim. What we did, we went back to the drawing board and we said, what really should be the core mission of SimsUshare? And ultimately what we saw after making a more elaborate, more feature-rich, more expensive program is there wasn't really a program in the market where it was easy to take a picture and set it on fire. That's it. We saw there was a huge need across the country, across the world even, for just a basic ability. And so we wanted to make it really, really simple, both to take a picture, set it on fire, and also make it easy to share the Sims. And that's why we came up with the name SimsUshare. So what we also feel like as a company, it's not just having a product where it's easy to use and easy to share, but we have to also support it with really the best customer service possible. And so our pledge is really to be available to help you when you need it, when you need that kind of assistance. I'm going to just turn off my camera for now. So the way that we pledge to help you when you need it is both first be able to get you onboarded quickly. We have quick start guides, we have topical videos, printable documentation, online classes. We have some free Sims to get you started. A quarterly newsletter, hope you've checked out. We're approaching our first year now. It's called Take Command. Of course, phone and web support. If you have any issues, you just call us up. We'll set up web meetings, all part of our customer and sales support. All the help is located off our help page, and here's the link, simsushare.com, tutorials and help. So definitely check it out because that's where you're going to find all of this help information, and we'll direct you to a lot of it after we've talked to you on the phone to help you work, to help you solve issues that you may have in using the program, getting the most value from it. So when you talk about, let's looking at a high level, the fundamental decisions that we make is what are we going to make? And then how are we going to show it in terms of simulations? I'm going to kind of cruise this through here. And of course, what to make depends on what fire problem you're trying to illustrate. But that's so critical to have a good grasp of what that fire problem is. Everything else can fall into place. Meanwhile, if you just decide to go and build a simulation and you don't have a good fire problem or something you're illustrating, all the technology in the world is not going to really make it any effective training. So whether we're going to go through this a little bit later in as a demonstration, but whether it's a single photo with a hazard, a walk around, some time evolving condition, just if someone sits there and doesn't do anything, fire is going to keep burning, or some sort of evolving condition based on a choice that they choose to do, implement this strategy or tactic. These are all kinds of things that you're going to build into your simulations. Now, as you add more of these things in, it becomes progressively more complex and time consuming to build. So you don't have to say we need the max for every situation. This is just kind of give you an overall categorization of the types of simulations that you'll be building. Walk around with multiple conditions. This is where decisions or evolutions happen where you want to take them through more than just a couple minutes on the incident, on the fire ground. And then more complex geographies. Maybe you want to walk through buildings, or maybe it's wildland where it's not just like a walk around of an ABCD. So all these things are possible, but you really want to decide what is it that you want to make and what is it that you're going to make. Then the next step is going to be, okay, if I'm going to make this, thinking about this still before you build it, how am I going to show it? Well, typically there's two ways, either instructor-led or self-run. And even instructor-led, is it going to be one-on-one? Is it going to be one-to-many? Are you going to share the simulation with a group? Just have everyone sort of crowd around your device, or are you going to project it on the screen? Or now with SimsUshare Command Training Center, the CTC, where you can coordinate multiple screens online. So each person can be in their home office, station, wherever, and you can be controlling it from another computer or device anywhere else pretty much in the world. So when you make your simulations, you want to keep in mind, you can make them for multiple purposes, but you want to try and think about what are going to be the uses up front. So if you can think about when you're making your situation, what's going to be the, how you're going to be wanting to use it. So that's going to also help you determine how extensive you have to make for the simulation. The more extensive you make it, if it's not actually being used in your exercise, then you've just kind of wasted time. So obviously, like anything, preparation is critical. And so what we did is to try and help you get idea of purposes and problems. We've created this simulation enhanced, handbook for using simulations to enhance training, which is available off of our help page. And training, typically, we sort of see that it falls into one of about 5 categories. Company level training, this is kind of either one-on-one or small group. Officer development, whether that's going to be a company officer or executive officer. Promotional process, SOP, SOG verification. And then we put continuing education, that is kind of a catch-all for things that you're teaching that may not fit into the other specific categories. So definitely check out this handbook. It'll kind of go through some ideas. It'll go through some of the benefits and even help you get started with what do you want to achieve, defining what you want to achieve and what you want to build with simulations. So now we're going to get into talk about what to make. So I'm going to now actually go through examples so you can see what it would be like to do kind of various levels of simulation. So I'm going to go single photo with hazard, walk around, and etc. Let's go into the program here. And I'm opening SimsUshare, go to full screen. Now, let's go and I'm going to go to edit here so we can actually see. Let me actually go and go into, let's say, this is a single picture with a single hazard. Now, as simple as this may be, just drop smoke onto the picture. I kind of like to hide the menu. It makes it a little bit more realistic. This is a perfectly fine exercise where you can discuss things like, how is the initial report going to happen? What are going to be the initial operations? Who's coming in? Where is it going to be staged? What are some of the clues that we're looking at here? What's actually happening? Do we see clues about maybe the fire in the garage extending into the house? All from just really a single picture. So you don't have to make a complicated scenario to actually have interesting training. And to actually make this, it's really as simple. I'm going to just remove, I actually had a little bit of smoke there on the roof. I didn't even notice. I'm going to go and remove this over here. It's as simple as bringing the picture in to what we call a location, clicking the plus button, going around here. All these are scrolly menus, clicking smoke, and let's say I'm going to bring in turbulent smoke. Once it's in here, I just click and drag and I move it to where I want it to be. And we try and use the same simple interface, this slider for scaling, not really pinch and zoom. Just everything is going to happen with the slider. We can make it bigger or smaller. We can rotate it here. We can type a specific value anytime you see this number box. Now, if I want this to have different qualities about it, I go to the pencil tool, and each of the effects will have different properties. So here, like brightness, opacity. So let me actually make this less dense. Opacity, again, you see the slider here. We try to keep it a consistent and simple way to add and adjust your effects. And then I can go back here once I'm done editing that effect, and I can go and add some more. So I can go here and add some fire, if however I'd like that to be. Now you can get more complex, like you can make it look like it's coming from inside the slit of this garage or on the other side. That's a technique called masking. But at the end of the day, just having a basic scenario like this as a single picture is perfectly fine for a lot of types of training. You don't have to prepare, just get the photos, put some smoke and fire and start talking about it. So once you go from just a single photo hazard, naturally people are going to say, okay, that's the situation. How do I look on the other side? What's going on the other side? What you can do is then in here, you see this is what we call the location menu. And up here, you create a new location, which is kind of like another slide. So here we've actually had, you can see it saying editing alpha. We already made the first slide called alpha and already made a Bravo slide. And so if we're going to make now a simulation that has a walk around, what I would do is make an Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta. I've already sort of preloaded these slides in here. All I really did was go to new location and add the right picture. Now to make a walk around, since that's most of what people are going to be using this for, we wanted to make that very efficient. So we, instead of actually setting, let me actually show you what this will look like. I'm going to go back and show, for example, if we want to see what a walk around looks like, what we've done is to create this simple and consistent set of arrows that you can assign. So now while this looks, you can make these arrows be react however you'd like them to be. So see, I can go around here and make the buttons click to different locations. So let's see how you would make a walk around with that first residential. So I would go into, let's say, I size up. Maybe what I might do here is, if that's my size up, actually what I'll do is go and clone it to have, I'll say clone it to be a with a walk around. I'd bring in those 4 slides, and that I do that in the new location. That's where I would name them. And I would just go, instead of individually setting the arrows left and right, I can go to this WalkRound Maker. And here is where I would now line up the slides that I want to be in the sequence of the walk around. So in this situation, I'll say it's Alpha, and then Bravo, and then Charlie. It just happens to coincide with the way the slides are listed here. Doesn't have to be. So I'm making that, and all I do is say make a loop. And once I'm done there, I hit play, and there, now it's added in these arrows. So you can see here, if I go left, I go to Bravo. Now you might think this is kind of north, west, south, east type of thing, but you want to think about these arrows as, where can I go from the current location? So I'm sitting here, where would I go if I'm on Bravo? Left, I'm going to go to Charlie, and right, I'll go back to Alpha. And now here I'm on Charlie, and look, oh, now I see there's something happening in the garage. Left is going to go to Delta, and right is going to go back to Bravo. So that's going to complete my walk around. So that's what the WalkRound Maker does. It lets you create in one fell swoop arrows to navigate around any number of locations. Now in this scenario, I also have made an interior and an interior from the rear location. If I look at that, this is how I edit. I just bring up the location menu and I click on the one I want to edit. This is my, let's say, my garage interior. Now if you notice, when I was actually, no, I don't want to clear that. When I was actually, this is what it would look like inside that garage. I'm going to go back with my left arrow key. But now if you notice, there were no arrows. I really couldn't get out of this, and I can't even get into it because there was no arrow from the outside to get in. So what I'm going to do is now show you how you set individual arrows. So let's say from the Alpha side, now if you notice here, again, I'll sort of show you, no arrows going into the garage. So I have to now create an arrow, and I'm just going to choose that this top arrow here is going to go into the garage. Now you could say maybe this sort of up to the right or up to the left is a little bit better. That's your choice. You decide what you'd like. What I go over here is into Alpha, and I say set navigation, and I'm going to set this, and I'll talk about it in a moment. So this is now going to tell me setting navigation for Alpha. Click the arrow to set that direction. What I do is I click the forward, and now it says choose a destination. It's going to be from Alpha when forward is pressed. And I'm going to say make it go interior. So now it lights up red. So you can see the WalkRound Maker, by doing left and right, just basically was a shortcut to do, instead of doing this manually, left going to Alpha, going to Bravo, and then right going to Delta. But now we want to set these individually, so I can actually set the individual arrow. I hit done, and now when I'm in Alpha here, now I have this arrow here. So you can see we can create these walkarounds, but they don't just have to be limited to walkarounds. I can add arrows. So when I go interior, now I'm inside the garage. And now if I do this up, now what's happened is that, remember before when I was in the garage, there was no way to get out. Suddenly this red arrow appeared. And that appeared because when I set the arrow, a little, I'll just kind of show you here what that sort of magic happened. I had set this reciprocal navigation link to yes. And that meant when you assign an arrow going one way, automatically assign the opposite arrow to go back. Because that's why when I'm in Alpha going to interior, it automatically set down going back to Alpha. So that's a little bit of a tip there for how you set your arrows. And sometimes you don't want to actually have the reciprocal happen. And so you shut this off and then you set your arrows, and then it only does it the way that you direct it. So that's essentially how you make walkarounds. Let's talk about now how you might time things coming in, a timed evolution. So let's, for example, I'm going to go over here. You notice here I've got some smoke, I've got some fire right here off of the Bravo, kind of off the roof. If I hit play, so timed evolutions means I can actually time all the elements. Now you don't see them here because they're timed to come in. And as I go around here, go around to Charlie, I've used whether the WalkRound Maker or individual, now we start seeing that that smoke is there. And as I come back around, now we see the fires there. So what we've done is we've programmed each of the elements to come in, to fade in at a certain time. Now, if we sit at alpha, we can actually see it happen. So I just reset. I made it, I think, for about 5 or 6 seconds. So in a couple seconds, you'll start to see it's getting darker here, and a couple more you'll see there. So what's interesting is that the timing by default is not dependent on where you're looking. So just like real life, something might be developing on the Charlie side, and if you don't see what's happening, it could get really bad. So that's why you want to actually be paying attention throughout time. You want to be always reassessing. So now to actually set timing, what you do, all you have to do is you click on the element, and then in the pencil, which is the characteristics, once you're editing that element, you go to the pencil tool, and then you see delay timing. And here you can actually set in fading. You can also have it fade out if you want it. That may be possible. If I go to fade in settings, you'll see this sets fade in when 5 seconds. And I can move this around to 30 seconds. If I need more than 30 seconds, I just go type in 65 seconds, whatever I want. What this is actually saying is after 5 seconds, start fading in. Fade in duration means once it's starting fading in, how long does it take to reach its full opacity, whatever that opacity was set, that transparency. So this is going to take 10 seconds overall for it to fully fade in. And you can control all that. And similarly with the fire, if I go to the fire here, you'll see, and I go, excuse me, I've clicked to the fire, and now I go to edit, and I say delay timing, fade in settings, and you'll see here, this one starts coming in at 7 seconds and takes 3 seconds to come in. Remember, the way we have it set up now, that's 7 seconds when you're in the whole scenario, regardless of where the user happens to be. So that's a really convenient feature to have the situation evolve just like it would in real life. Things are going to happen whether or not we're doing things. Based on inaction, things are going to happen just as a result of natural consequences. And so that's why we would have timing involved in our scenarios. Now timing involved with scenarios is different from clicking to be involved with scenarios. So clicking would be like the crew's going to do some action, and so I don't know when that's going to happen, so I can't pre-program it. Or another thing is the crew, or the evolution, maybe I want to hold on, give them some time to do the size up. I don't know that it's going to be 30 seconds or a minute. Maybe I want to give them 2 minutes. So instead of actually having the smoke or the fire timed in, we click some button to make it happen. And that evolves, get to the next condition. So for example, here's a McDonald's. And by the way, all these scenarios are free. If you're interested, let me know, and we can certainly show you where they are. On our website, we have a section called free simulations. So over here, just to kind of people who are curious, all these diamonds, these are what we call masks. So you'll see if when I actually hit play, see I had smoke was there, but masking lets you get things so smoke looks like it's coming from behind or through things. And you'll see some other interesting applications of masks, but that's an intermediate concept that really adds a lot of realism to your scenarios. So here what I've done is I have 4 sides of the building. I'm here now at delta and back at alpha, but now instead of having it timed to come in, I've made a special button here that's going to advance to the next condition. And so what happens is I've got a delta view here, and I've assigned a button to go up to delta, basically fire extension. So to the user, it looks like I'm staying on the same slide because the background's the same. But we know we've created a second slide that has the appropriate conditions. And here I even made another slide to go to kind of even more extension. And now I can actually go and walk around. Now you notice when I'm walking around here, if I'm walking around in the different condition, notice how it's changing. And when I walk around here, it looks consistent. I'm walking around in essentially the arrival condition. And that's because what we did with the walk around is to tie together the arrival slides. Whereas when we go to this, what you'll see in a minute, which is sort of the extension, we tie together the A, B, C, D of the extension look. So the participant doesn't realize that they are looking basically a different set of slides. It doesn't really matter. And that's how we actually do multiple conditions. And by clicking, I mean clicking here to jump to another condition. So a lot of interesting things you can do with this. And so now you can see also with some masking how I can make fire look like inside windows, not only above the roof. So a lot of really cool things you can do, masking here like it's coming through the door and it's sort of cut off. So that's the idea of sort of click. That's one clicking where we're using these buttons. These buttons also map to keys. So for example, the up and down arrow are tied to these center arrows. So I can actually, in the arrows, without clicking the button, I can actually go here. I'm clicking on the keyboard. So you set up your arrows to go between your different conditions for that particular location. Now there's also another kind of, let's actually take a look at what these slides look like. So if I go here to location, you'll see there's my alpha, but I also have an alpha fully involved, alpha losing control, and alpha knockdown. So when I'm navigating in the arrival condition, I've tied together, I've made the walk around alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta. And meanwhile, I make a walk around between alpha fully involved, Bravo, Charlie fully involved. So that way the arrows for the user are consistent for the current condition. So now I can make those arrows set up in that narrow arrow cluster. There's another way we actually have, if you want to make it kind of more something where these arrows don't really translate that well. Let's take a look at this simulation. And in this one, you notice I've got a Bravo and I've got a Delta exposure, but I only don't have the buttons here to go there because it's unclear, is Bravo really going left and right, or is it up to the right? So what we've done is use what we call a location jumper. And these are basically arrows that can move you to different locations by click or by time, and they just jump you to another slide. So if I want to go into the Bravo exposure, I click, and now I'm in the Bravo exposure. And then I'm in the Bravo exposure, that's a new slide, I can back out. Similarly with the Delta exposure. And so we definitely recommend you using, for consistency, this navigation cluster, but by no means you have to use it. You can use, let's say I now want to go into the fire building, I click on that. And now I can use a mix of them, whether they're location jumpers or using this navigation arrow cluster. And now, let's say I am using, when I'm showing this as sort of a one-to-many in a screen, I may have this, this interior one, which is going to evolve the condition. So now I go like that. And now, if I go interior, we'll see it looks smoky, as it should be. Or if I now go the location jumper, now remember, this is a knockdown slide. So the location jumper on this slide is going to knock down Bravo exposure. Whereas when I was down over here, this location jumper, someone thinks it's the same one, but we're really on another slide. This is going to go to Bravo arrival condition, so forth. And even this drone picture over here is kind of cute. What we have actually a button underneath here to go to a sort of a 3D, a top level view. So I click on it, and now you see we're up here overhead, and I can use these arrows. But so someone thinks they're clicking on the drone, but they're really clicking on a jumping mechanism. And so you can put pictures on top to make it, whether go to a map, go to a drone, go to another part of the area. So that's how you can use the navigation features to make your scene more realistic by having locations where people are going to be viewing the various conditions. So this is now actually a walk around with multiple conditions, and you can include time as well. So some things can evolve and some things can be clickable. So we have an example. I'll go back. This is sort of the last example in terms of like a school shooting, or it's an office shooting here. You can see here, I'm going to go, this is just when I go over here. Actually, let me go over here to this is different possible paths. So this is not only has different locations, but you can set victims, non-victim, shooter, not shooter. So we've laid out several different configurations of what you're going to see in this office. So as I go here, you can see I'm just setting arrows to go up and around, all sorts there. I can start walking around as I kind of get used to navigating. I go here, oh, and look, there's a victim down there. And so you can do things to present information. So this is now just an example of some basic navigation, where now I could show you here, if I take it along a different path, and typically you're not going to be seeing this over here, someone else will be controlling it. I'll show you here. I can, now that they know how to navigate, now I can navigate around here, and I'm now working in a different part of that slide deck. But for the user perspective, they're seeing the same sequence. They've learned how to navigate. Now when I go over here, you see I got I have a victim here, and this person is timed. So you can see that person is timed to show up in various locations on that particular slide that I've linked together. So you can see you can go from extremely simple, which is just a single picture, to very complicated navigational structures and using SimsUshare. Again, the complex ones are not necessarily good for all situations, but as you need them, as you need that sort of you need that richness, you can add that in. I definitely suggest, though, starting out with something basic and working up to it as you need, because you may find out you never need something that's too complicated. So now let me go back to different ways of how you're going to be showing. We've talked about how you're going to make different things. So how do we show it? Well, we have instructor-led, meaning someone is going to take the controls and present, and whether that person also leads the person around or you give the candidate the arrows to move around, it's still kind of instructor-led. The instructor is setting the problem. You might also have it self-run, where you tell people, go and look at this simulation and walk around it. So that you're going to give them material and then they do it themselves. But most of what SimsUshare has been to this point has been useful as an instructor-led tool. So whether it's one-on-one, just having someone show, here, hey, let's look at my iPad or look at my laptop, whether it's putting someone up at a projector or putting a group or putting the simulation up on a screen and sharing it. Now, what we've added in, people are probably, customers are familiar with the Command Training Center, CTC, is how do you actually have one person control multiple screens? That's what the CTC does, coordinates multiple screens. It can be online without any software downloads. And so this sort of picture illustrates how you have one person, you can see little dots on his screen, and he is actually seeing where all these different people are. And these people have their own arrows, so they can move around under certain conditions. For example, let's say that they're moving around under the arrival condition. They wouldn't have the buttons to take it from arrival to fire extension. But the controller and the instructor could make a change to actually change it to be, let's say, fire extension conditions. And then everyone would see that condition and they can move around in that. So all these people, obviously someone's going to be in command. They could be running the incident. And these people could be responding as if they're in that incident altogether. And again, this can be done online fairly easily. And that's the CTC. And we do have a couple videos you should check out right off the homepage of SimsUshare.com. And that will show you actually how you would actually run simulations online with your current subscription. So now I mentioned that up to this point, the training has been instructor-led mostly, rather than self-running. Self-running has been, you could do that, but you have to get people into the program. You have to tell them which simulation, and it's still kind of, it's apart from their material. What we're very excited to announce coming this summer, we have the ability to embed simulations directly into web pages. Many of you have learning management systems and are doing online training, or a good number of people with different providers. Or maybe you have some department web pages where you have some drills. You will soon be able to actually put a fully interactive simulation into your web page. And so rather than just putting a video of it, which is just play once or repeat it, you'll actually be able to put this in and have the person, without anyone else controlling, move around and click the arrows and evolve things, and it's all self-running. So this is really exciting to watch out for. I'm sure we're going to do a webinar in a little bit once this is introduced about that. Well, I want to thank you. Sort of a wrap up here, I want to thank you for coming with me along, seeing this kind of high-level view of the different components of SimsUshare, kind of how they've evolved. You can see we've done quite a lot as we move toward more web-based delivery, but also as people are digging further into the program, you'll see that there is more functionality as well that we're exposing. Now, again, based on our core mission though, we want to make sure that it always remains simple to create simple stuff. So we hope you agree. We hope that we actually, you'll reach out to us so we can help you. And we are available to see that you can get the most value from your purchase. Please let us know how we can help you. Now, I'm going to, this is going to be recorded. I'm going to put this recording into our webinar archives. If anyone has any questions, please use the chat window. If you'd like to use a microphone, I can, please just raise your hand and I will then unmute your microphone. But thank you very much. Appreciate your attention. I'm just going to wait here to see if any chat, it should give me a little notice if anyone has any questions about this material, other things, any ways, maybe suggestions about what we can do for future webinars. We certainly appreciate that.